Okay, we're going to be reading You Were Born for This, and it's the astrology for radical self-acceptance. So radical self-acceptance can't be a bad thing, can it? This is written by Chani, and on the back it says, she shows us how your birth chart, a snapshot of the sky at the moment you took your first breath, reveals unique talents, challenges, and opportunities. Fortified with this knowledge, you can live out the life you were born to. Ooh, that's exciting. All right, so let's read the, I can find the page. Here we go. Settle back, and here we go. Introduction, being witnessed. The first time I encountered astrology was the first time I remember feeling seen. I was 8 years old. Living in a small town snuggled at the base of the Rockies, I was surrounded by both the immeasurable beauty of nature and the unforgiving wreckage of addiction. I spent a lot of my childhood alone. While the adults in my life partied and self-destructed with wanton abandon, I watched The Cosby Show and dreamed of a life with parents, siblings, grandparents, and a lineage to claim me. When the party came home, I felt a different kind of loneliness. An overdose, a fatal accident, a shotgun fired, a conviction. I knew what cocaine tasted like by the time I was 5. I knew not to tell anyone about anything that happened in my home. I was terrified all the time. So I hid. I hid in any bathroom with a lock on the door. I hid inside a self-constructed personality that was aloof, sarcastic, and remote. I hid to protect my excruciatingly sensitive and porous being from the sharp edges of adult sorrows that swallowed my childhood. As those around me wreaked havoc, it wasn't uncommon for me to find myself in some makeshift shack up a dirt road with adults I did not want to be with, witnessing events that I was unable to make any sense of or navigate. I was in such a situation on that fateful day I first encountered astrology. A total stranger, a skinny white woman with unkempt hair and an unloved look in her eyes, gave me a gift I've never forgotten. Armed with only my birth date, she looked up the location of the planets on the day I was born, gazed at me with a glimmer in her eye, and said, "You're very judgmental." Yes, yes, I am, I thought with pride. I had no real idea what the word actually meant, but I immediately resonated with what I felt it implied. She was distinguishing me from my surroundings. She saw that I possessed the kind of discernment that others around me lacked. I had judgment, and with it, I could find my way out of this mess. Though I would never meet her again, that brief interaction gave me something to hold on to, and it may have only been a thread, but when that's all you've got, it feels like spun gold. In a situation that threatens to obliterate me, someone looked down at the book of symbols and numbers and used astrology to uncover a truth about me that would save my life. Being witnessed is essential to our humanity, our growth, and our ability to move past the trauma that we've survived. If astrology does its job, it offers a mirror in which we can see both our best selves and our growth edges. Radical self-acceptance. When I was 12 years old, I had my first thorough natal chart reading. My father had just moved across the country to Toronto with my second stepmother, a woman who I'd grown up with. I'd spent many weekends with her and her 2 children. Our childhoods were parallel. Our parents had partied, worked, and teetered on the brink of madness together. We were witnesses to some of each other's most harrowing moments, and we survived. The fact that my father and mother fled the small town we grew up in meant that they were ready to leave behind at least some of the violence, drugs, and self-destruction we had all been so embroiled in. The trauma bonds between us were solid, and for the moment it seemed like we might be able to heal the collective heartbreak of the past decade. We were a ragtag bunch, shell-shocked from a small town, a family of misfits looking for another chance at life in the big city. My new step-grandmother, Anita, was a Reiki master, just like me. Besides being the most captivating, witchy, spiritual, tell-it-all like it is healer woman that I'd ever met, she had a collection of friends who was equally talented in the healing arts and as weird as she was. Psychics, astrologers, past life explorers, artists, and the like surrounded her and me when I got to spend time in Toronto. All the people I met through her seemed to be dedicated to living less harmful lives. They spent their time developing their healing practices, and knowing them gave me a glimpse of another way of being. Shortly after the move, Anita gifted the family with a reading from Tina Ketola, an astrologer she knew and worked with. Tina, I'm so sorry, Tina, I'm sure that's not how you say your name, lived in a small town just outside the city, in a normal looking house in a subdued suburban subdivision. Inside, the world she constructed for me was anything but. As soon as she started describing each one of us, I was mesmerized. I was hearing this symbolic language for the first time, but I felt like I'd always known it. Explaining the intricacies of our charts with great skill and humor, she helped me to understand and why we were each coping with the situation we were in differently and how we would each cope with life in general. The distinctions that she was able to make between us helped me understand myself in relation to everyone else, which is always useful, but in a new family unit is essential. She had written a book, The New Astrology, which my father bought for me. It became my Bible. As a child in search of any kind of wisdom and guidance, astrology became my immediate, full-blown obsession, and it would be only decades before I finally accepted it as my path. I'm a late bloomer, like a late bloomer. Astrologers warn me that with a Saturn placement such as mine, it might be the case, but it's hard to understand what you might actually mean when you hear that at a young age. I had tons of drive, but the only place I knew to put it was therapy, Reiki workshops with Anita, spiritual ritual, self-help books, affirmations, meditations, episodes of Oprah, and astrology. I spent my 20s largely in a healing incubator. To support myself, I did community work, astrology readings, Reiki sessions, a lot of waitressing, bartending, cleaning, temping, and whatever else would pay the bills. Though I knew giving astrology readings was a way to make money, I didn't feel it emotionally, psychologically, or structurally strong enough to do so. Exclusively doing readings was also never quite enough for me, though it is an honor to read other people's charts. I've always known that I wanted a larger outlet than only one-to-one work. Before social media, however, those outlets were open to only a select few. My business as it exists today wasn't an option when I was 20. Sometimes we are late bloomers because the world needs to catch up with us. The truth is that I felt lost for most of my professional life. By my early 30s, I was working long hours teaching yoga to folks from all kinds of backgrounds and situations: celebrities, cancer patients, those experiencing homelessness, and folks in systems of mass incarceration. My work was in the healing realm, but I still felt unfulfilled. I wasn't living my purpose, and it haunted me. I didn't want to be part of the yoga industrial complex. I didn't want to be teaching a spiritual or physical discipline that came from a culture that wasn't my own. I didn't want to be another white lady culturally appropriating Indian spirituality. I searched and searched for something to do. I whined. I was bitter about the fact that this wasn't easy for me. Meanwhile, I dreamt about the planets constantly. I talked about astrology in therapy, and when I did, my therapist would say, "You know, every time you talk about astrology, you light up. The energy comes into the room. Your entire being shifts." And I would stare blankly at her, annoyed that she didn't understand my crisis. I was deeply frustrated, really broke, and not getting any younger. So I did what any person in their mid-30s does when they can't figure out what to do next. I went back to school. I finished my BA at CIIS in San Francisco, where a group of thoughtful, compassionate, and brilliant educators helped me reawaken within me my need to be involved in social justice work and my need for and the love of writing. At the same time, social media was shifting our way of communicating with each other, and I was re engaging with astrology in a new way because of it. I didn't want to be an astrologer. In my mind, it wasn't a real profession. I wanted to be something respectable. After growing up in a town filled with so much make believe and escapism, I wanted something that would ground me in the world and be of real practical use to others. How could astrology give me that? The planets had a few ideas. They were still visiting me in my dreams like they always had, only now they were getting louder and more domineering, waking me up terrified in the middle of the night. And it seemed the only way to quiet them was to oblige. Armed with Blogspot and my first awkward and jumbled horoscopes, I started writing. Not because I thought anyone would like my brand of astro-political self-help. I was certain, in fact, that people would hate it. Because it felt like me, and I didn't channel everything that was awakening within me, it would backfire on me in my system. It still took a few more years of self-doubt, failed attempts at meaningful career. Oh, goodness me. Thank you for that. I don't even know what that was, but it made a sound. And I'm sorry to interrupt that recording, but hey, that's kind of fun. Okay, it still took a few more years of self-doubt, failed attempts at meaningful career elsewhere, and dropping out of 3 master's programs before I finally decided to give it my all. I had worn myself out. I had tried everything else I could think of. I kept returning to what my therapist and others had told me before. This is where the energy was. When I spoke about astrology, I came to life. It was easy for me to dismiss when I was younger, but as I aged, I realized how rare it really was. When we turn towards things that fills us with a sense of purpose, energy, and enthusiasm, we become a channel for more of the same. Writing horoscopes gave me a connection to the outside world. I was still single, without much in any way of family, and painfully lonely these days. But writing felt like, then and now, a love affair. I was actively carving a place for myself in the world, and I could sense there was a start of something that I'd been searching for my whole life. A couple of years into writing horoscopes, I started studying formally traditional astrology with Demetra George, and in doing so, I came to realize that astrology, ritual, and working with people in a way I was beginning to was right there in my birth chart, clear as day, waiting for me to see it, accept it, and own it. Soon after, I met the woman who would become my wife, and all of the pieces of my life started to fall quickly into place. Astrology has helped me to accept my past, present, and future potential more radically and with greater certainty than anything else has. This book is offered to you in the hope that it will validate your deepest desires and dreams for your life while challenging you to accept the responsibility of bringing them into being. How exciting! You know, your birth chart is the story. Let's keep reading. I think it's really an interesting book. Let's read the first chapter about the birth chart. You know, you can get your birth chart free on the internet. I think even ChatGTP can do it. So it's worthwhile just Googling free birth chart, natal birth chart. If you know the time that you were born, then you can get all the planetary placements. I think it's called Astrology Cafe, but you can get ChatGTP to do it as well, and find out a little bit more. So let's talk about your birth chart, chapter 1, the blueprint of your potential. Your birth chart is a snapshot of the sky the moment you took your first breath. It marks your arrival here on Earth, a celestial blueprint, if you will, that holds the key to living a life of purpose. Wow, wouldn't we always want to do that? Popular astrology has focused heavily on one part of the astrological alphabet, your sun sign. While the sun may have been in Sagittarius where you were born, that is only one small part of what was occurring in the sky. You have every planet and every sign somewhere in your chart. Astrology represents the entirety of life, and like life, we escape none of it. You are not just a Virgo or a Gemini or a Libra. You are a moment in time, with every sign, planet, and point playing a part in who you are, how you move through the world, and what you came in here to do. Whatever pattern constellated in the heavens at the moment you took your first breath is the cosmic imprint of your soul, the map of your journey you will take in this lifetime, and the ways in which you will go about it. Whether Mars marks your chart in a prominent way, stirring controversy and courageous acts from you, or Jupiter is in charge of your life's direction, encouraging you to open doors through optimism and generosity. You, like everyone and everything else here, are an amulet of a celestial significance. The position of your planets in your birth chart reveal the nature of your life without any kind of judgment attached. Your astrological makeup is a neutral reflection of your life, much like a mirror. Only the person looking at the reflection judges it. The mirror simply reveals what is there. Astrology reminds us that we're exactly as we're supposed to be for a good reason, on purpose and with a purpose that we must live out if we want to feel any kind of fulfillment. The 3 keys to your chart. There are 3 keys in every chart that fundamentally explain your life's purpose, your physical and emotional needs, and your motivation for living. It's the most embarrassing to admit that the meaning of my chart was not crystal clear to me until my late 30s. I had pored over it for decades. I'd gotten lost down a million rabbit holes trying to understand its most obscure angles. I received many readings by many talented astrologers. But until I had the tools of traditional astrology in my grasp and could understand my chart through these 3 simple keys, I could not see the blueprint of my life that they represented. The specifics of my potential were just as vague references to a future that felt like it was constantly eluding me. And that is why I'm so passionate about teaching you how to understand your chart in this way. The 3 keys are the sun, which means your life's purpose, the moon, which is your physical and emotional needs, and the ascendant and its ruler, which is your motivation for living and the direction your life is steered in. By the end of this book, you'll understand each of these 3 keys in your chart and have the tools for unlocking them. They will anchor your understanding of yourself, your life, and its meaning, and aid you in your ability to love and accept yourself just the way you are. Understanding our astrology chart is the doorway. The effort to move through it is our own. The sun in your chart will detail the nature of how and where you need to shine. The moon in your chart will tell you how you can best unpack your life's purpose daily, with great care and consideration for your unique physical and emotional needs. The sign of your ascendant will detail the specific kind of motivation that you have for living life. The planet that rules your ascendant will tell you the direction of your life is steered in. Everything else in your chart will either be supporting of or challenging these keys, or for our purposes here, they will be secondary. So pulling up your chart, so you can actually go to chaninicholas.com to pull up your birth chart. You'll need the day, month, year, location, and time of your birth to pull up an accurate birth chart. Time is everything with astrology. The more accurate your birth time, the more accurate your birth chart. Spend extra effort investigating the exact time of your birth is always worthwhile. So now we're going to jump to chapter 3, which is the first key, your sun. And this is around your life's purpose. Each morning, the sun rises triumphant over the eastern horizon. Reborn from a long night traveling the underworld, the sun's rise calls us to mirror its movements, give our gratitude, perform our rituals, offer ourselves up to be of service. Human life begins in the darkness of the womb, but it depends on a reliable source of light and warmth once it leaves its place of conception and incubation. The sun in your chart is your life force. This is why it represents your life's purpose, and perhaps why popular astrology has put such an emphasis on this sign it is in. Astrology is a wisdom tradition built on observation of the natural world, and we can see how the elements of the natural world have correlations with the planets in our chart. The sun's warmth and light are what all life depends on to grow. It shines its bright and it's luminous. All the things that have those elements will be related to the sun. Gold is its metal and color. The heart, the center of our physical system, is the organ it rules. And as we notice what else in nature flourishes in the sun or acts like the sun, we begin to form a deeper relationship with this system of knowledge. Astrology isn't out there, it's all around us, right here. When the sun is well placed in our chart, it begins with it a boundless, generative, generous, courageous, magnanimous, and glorious self confidence. When the sun is not well placed, it struggles to manifest itself. Much like a stormy day, the clouds and upsets of our astrological makeup can obscure the light and warmth of our soul's purpose. For me, having a difficult aspect between my Sun and Saturn has meant that depression often wins when I'm left to my own devices. Without consciously working against this aspect, I tend to settle quite easily into despair and frustration. My wife, on the other hand, who has no difficult aspects between traditional planets that cause harm, Saturn and Mars, and her Sun has a very helpful one from Jupiter, the planet of optimism, is and has always been prone to finding solutions and staying proactive and positive in the process. I am forever grateful for the support her chart and her heart lends to our lives and highly recommend finding those who balance you out emotionally, psychologically, and astrologically. There are three main characteristics of your sun that you should consider as you unpack your life's purpose. 1. The sign that it's in, how you shine. 2. The house that it's in, the area of life in which you need to shine. And 3. The planets in aspect to your sun, who is influencing your ability to shine. So then there is a chart here that says check in with your chart, finding your sun. You need to look for a little circle with a dot in it. That's the glyph that stands for the sun. And we want to find out what sign your sun is in. For me, it's in the sign of Gemini. And what house is your sun in? I don't know, so we'll have to check that when we do it. Key points to remember about your sun. Your sun is your life force, your identity, and your life's purpose. The sign that it's in speaks to the style in which you shine. The house that it's in tells you where in your life you will do this. Planets in the aspect of your sun either support or challenge the way in which you shine and live out your life's purpose. How interesting. I literally want to go get my chart right now and see where it is. Let me see what's next. Now she does a little example of Dr. Maya Angelou's sun chart and to show us. So we might need to check that out ourselves. But let's just have a look. I promised a friend of mine that I would look at Sun in Taurus. So let's take a look at Sun in Taurus and what it could mean for you. If you read this book, You Were Born for This by Chani Michaels, you will see where your sun is and what it means for you. So I promised I would do this, so here we go. The sun in the fixed earth sign of Taurus shines when it stabilizes, steadies, and builds within the resources it has. Taurus takes the rushing, exuberant, and unrefined energy of life and makes use of it, molds it into a masterpiece, cultivates the fields of its potential with its uncanny ability to manifest. Ooh, Taurus's magic might be slow, but it is also stubbornly strong. Taurus cannot be pushed, forced, or hurried. Nature doesn't rush, and neither does this bull. The horns of the bull, the symbol for Taurus, represent fertility, in part due to the bull's domestication and use for agriculture. The horns of this magnificent beast have often been associated with the crescent moon, the symbol of the goddess, creatrix, and giver of life. Generally, horns have been associated with the fallopian tubes, but beyond anatomy, Taurus energy is generative. Ruled by Venus, the goddess of love and connection, Taurus has a natural, I don't even know this word, fecundity, fecundity. We'll have to look that up. As a fixed earth sign, Taurus is the hub, gathering all those in need around it. If you have Sun in Taurus, you'll most likely be energized by being generous, resourceful, and relaxed. No one knows how to chill like a bull. Appreciative of all things tasty, comfortable, luxurious, and sensually pleasing, your Sun in Taurus knows how to enjoy the physical realm. Your Sun in Taurus is here to build and fully enjoy a life of pleasure and productivity. When distorted, this energy can become controlling, possessive, stubborn, and over-fixated on stability. Your Sun in Taurus may use certainty as a defense mechanism and tend towards inflexibility, bossiness, and belligerence. Because your Sun's mission is to stabilize, taking risks, changing course, or leaving halfway through a bad movie can feel like too much of a deviation from your generally consistent rhythm. You may therefore get stuck in your ways, ruts, and ideas about life. Your Sun in Taurus will be challenged to learn how to balance your desire for consistency with the need to take necessary risks to support your personal growth. Affirmations for Taurus. I am allowed to change my mind. I am just as worthy of love and support as those to whom I offer it. Reflection questions could be, in what part of your life do you feel you're good at building, stabilizing, and creating? In what part of your life do you tend to get inflexible? How do you see your ability to build something solid or monumental as tied to your life's purpose? If you don't feel you've developed the ability to do so yet, does it sound something that would give you satisfaction and joy? And then I promised another friend of mine that I would also read the Aquarius one, and they are still here. So let's find that. Here we go. And if you want to read the rest of them, you'll have to read them yourself by getting a hold of this fantastic book. Sun in Aquarius. In this fixed air sign, your Sun expresses its nature by concentrating your energy towards your intellectual pursuits. The Sun in Aquarius helps you develop a personality that gets you known for your ability to understand and innovate systems that work best for all. The Sun in an air sign will express itself through intellect, communication, and the ability to exchange ideas. But Aquarius is traditionally a Saturn-ruled sign, which means it's a little remote. Cool, boundaries intact, the ringed planet comes with its own mechanisms for creating the space it needs. The symbol for Aquarius is the water bearer that pours forth its liberation to humanity. Here the Sun has an incredible gift of unwavering vision. Aquarius is a sign that is adept at intellectual discernment, reserving its exuberance until it understands the situation thoroughly. Its clarity tends to pierce the muddiness of emotionality so that a problem can be solved. The Sun is in its detriment in Aquarius, the Sun opposite to its home in Leo. Here the Sun is to function in a sign focused on the group and not its own personal needs. The Sun in Aquarius is usually more comfortable thinking about humanity than having emotional exchanges with other humans unless something else in the chart counters to this. For air signs, the head is generally an easier space to reside than in the heart. The mind is where Aquarius has the greatest strength, yet it can always become a weakness if the rest of the being is not developed. Just as the Sun struggles in the relationship-centric sign of Libra, its fall, so too in Aquarius, its detriment, the Sun loses its strength by not being focused on self-expression. That's not to say that you can't be as powerful or self-obsessed as the next person. It just means that the focus is on your ability to create structures that foster equality. The Sun in Aquarius can signify someone who works differently from others. You are not dependent on the attention that the Sun usually seeks out, giving you a possible air of aloofness. Being the smartest in the room is perhaps easy for you, but it's also how the distortion of your sign will tend to manifest. Your Sun in Aquarius can become so logical that it may be tempted to forego the messages of your heart. Learning to feel, emote, and be in a relationship with your physical self can do wonders. Once connected to the wisdom that resides there, you are unstoppable. Affirmations. My emotions have their own logic. I'm allowed to not know what to do, say, or think about a situation. And reflection questions could be, where in your life does logic serve you best? Where in life does purely relying on logic hinder your growth? And where do you tend to become overly rigid about your thinking? What helps you develop and maintain a connection to your emotional life? And do you feel your ability to understand systems and how to innovate them, or that your ability to demonstrate and direct your intellectual abilities is tied to your life's purpose?